The prairie wind swept through the quiet town, carrying the scent of rain. She stood outside the general store, cradling her baby beneath a worn shawl, watching strangers pass without notice. Her husband had been gone for months, off to war, they said, but deep down, she knew he wasn't coming back. Alone, money running out, she had nowhere else to turn. A shadow fell across her. She looked up to see a tall cowboy, his hat tipped low, eyes the color of storm clouds. He glanced at the bundle in her arms, then at her face. "You look like you've been walking a long road," he said softly. Voice edged with warmth, she tightened the shawl around her baby. "It's been longer than I thought I could walk." He studied her for a moment, then took a step closer. "You hungry? My ranch is just a mile out. We've got food and a dry place to rest." Her lips parted in hesitation. She'd heard stories of men offering kindness for their own gain, but there was something in his tone that felt steady, safe. "I don't even know your name," she murmured. "Caleb." He replied simply. "And you are?" "Maria," she said, glancing down at her baby. "This is Noah." Caleb's gaze softened as the baby stirred. "He's got your eyes," he said. "Strong eyes." She almost smiled. "Almost, he's all I have." Caleb shifted his stance, removing his hat. "Then let me help you keep what you have. It ain't charity, Maria. It's just what a man ought to do." They walked together toward his horse. Caleb lifted her into the saddle. The baby nestled between them before swinging up behind her. The steady rhythm of the horse's hooves calmed her frayed nerves. At the ranch, the scent of hay and wood smoke wrapped around them. Caleb carried her suitcase while Maria stepped inside, blinking at the warmth of the hearth. The baby cooed softly, as though sensing safety for the first time in weeks. Maria loosened the shawl, letting him stretch tiny fingers toward the firelight. Caleb poured her a cup of coffee, watching quietly as she sipped. "You don't owe me anything," he said after a moment, her brows knit together. "Why would you say that?" "Because I know what it's like to feel you've got nothing left but the weight on your shoulders," he replied. She looked away, feeling tears threaten. No one had spoken to her like that since before the war. Over the next days, Caleb repaired the fence, tended the cattle, and made sure Maria and Noah had all they needed. He never pressed her for answers, never demanded more than she could give. One evening, a storm rolled in. The wind howled against the windows, lightning flashing over the hills. Maria stood by the fire, holding Noah. When Caleb came in soaked from checking the barn, "You shouldn't be out in that," she said, worry in her voice. He shook off his hat, his hair damp. Couldn't risk the roof leaking over the feed. "We'll need it come winter." She noticed his hands trembling from the cold. Without thinking, she stepped closer, draping a blanket over his shoulders. Caleb met her eyes then, his voice low but steady. "Maria, I'm not afraid of loving you." The words stopped her breath. Her heart pounded as he stepped forward, his arms encircling her and the baby in one sure embrace. For a moment, she let herself lean into him, feeling the strength in his hold not as a cage, but as a shelter. Noah made a soft sound, his small head pressed against Caleb's chest. Caleb smiled faintly, rocking them both without thinking. "I've lost before," Caleb said quietly, "but I reckon some things are worth risking your heart for." Again she closed her eyes, letting the warmth seep into her bones. The storm outside seemed far away now. That night, they sat by the fire until the wind died down. Caleb told her stories about the land, the long rides, and the quiet beauty of the prairie at sunrise. Maria listened, her heart slowly unknotting. Each word felt like a brick laid in the foundation of something she hadn't dared to dream of. By morning, the sky was clear. Caleb saddled his horse, offering to ride into town for supplies. "Anything you need, just write it down," he told her. She watched him go, Noah's tiny fingers gripping her shawl. For the first time in months, she felt that maybe the road ahead wasn't something to fear. When Caleb returned that afternoon, he brought more than food. He brought a small wooden carving, a horse finely made, and set it beside Noah. "It's for him to keep," Caleb said, "something to remind him he's got someone looking out for him." Maria's eyes stung. "You didn't have to." "Wanted to," he interrupted gently. "Same as I want to keep you both safe." And in that moment, she knew Caleb wasn't just offering them shelter. He was offering them a place in his heart, one that felt as wide and steadfast as the land itself.
The days turned into weeks, and Maria found herself moving through the ranch as though she had always belonged there. She helped with simple chores, learned the rhythm of the place, and found comfort in the sound of Caleb's voice at the end of the day. Noah began to laugh more often, his baby giggles carrying through the kitchen as Maria cooked. Caleb would lean in the doorway, smiling as though the sound itself could heal an old wound. One chilly evening, Caleb came in with a bundle of wildflowers he had gathered near the creek. "Not much grows this time of year," he said, handing them to her, "but they made me think of you." She traced the petals with her fingertips, unsure how to respond. "They're beautiful," she whispered, placing them in a glass jar on the WINDOWSILL. The three of them sat down for supper, the fire casting a warm glow across the table. Caleb told a story about his younger days, and Maria found herself laughing until her cheeks hurt. After Noah was asleep, she stepped out onto the porch. The prairie stretched endlessly under a sky littered with stars. Caleb joined her, leaning on the railing beside her. "This place gets quiet at night," he said. "But it's a good kind of quiet." Maria nodded. "It's different from the silence I knew before. This one doesn't feel lonely." Caleb turned to her, his eyes steady. "That's because you're not alone anymore." Her breath caught. She searched his face, finding no trace of doubt or hesitation, just the quiet strength she'd begun to trust. He reached for her hand, his fingers warm against the chill in the air. "I meant what I said that night. I'm not afraid of loving you." She swallowed hard. "It's just, I've lost so much." "Caleb, I'm scared of losing again." His grip tightened, not to hold her in place but to anchor her. "We can't stop the world from taking, Maria, but we can choose who we hold on to." A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. Caleb brushed it away with his thumb, his touch gentle but certain. "Let me hold on to you," he murmured. "Both of you." Her heart, weary from grief, felt the stirrings of something new, something that might one day be called hope. That night, she didn't sleep alone. Caleb stayed by her side, not crossing any line, just making sure she and Noah were warm and safe. As the wind whispered against the windows. By spring, the ranch bloomed with life. New calves filled the pasture, and the air smelled of fresh grass. Maria found herself laughing freely now, her shoulders lighter than they had been in years. One morning, Caleb lifted Noah onto his shoulders and walked him through the fields, pointing out birds and distant hills. Maria watched from the porch, her heart swelling. When they returned, Caleb knelt so Noah could toddle toward her, tiny legs unsteady but determined. "Mama!" the boy squealed. Maria froze, her hands trembling. She looked at Caleb, who only smiled softly. "Guess he's made up his mind," he said. Her eyes stung as she scooped Noah into her arms, pressing her face into his hair. "I guess he has," she whispered. That evening, Caleb set a small box on the table in front of her. She opened it slowly, revealing a simple silver ring. "It's not fancy," he said, "but it's strong, like what I want for us." She looked from the ring to him, her voice catching. "Are you sure?" "I've been sure since the day I saw you outside that store," he replied. "I knew then I wanted to keep you safe, and I still do. Always will." Maria slipped the ring onto her finger. It wasn't gold, but it gleamed in the firelight like a promise. They sat together in the quiet after that, the sound of the wind mingling with the soft breathing of a sleeping child. Caleb's arm found its way around her shoulders, pulling her close. "We'll face whatever comes," he said, "as a family." And for the first time in a long, long while, Maria believed him. The days grew warmer, but spring storms rolled in without warning. One afternoon, dark clouds gathered on the horizon as Caleb was in the fields repairing a fence line. Maria was in the kitchen when she heard the first rumble of thunder. She glanced out the window, and froze. Smoke was rising in the distance, too close to the northern pasture. She grabbed Noah and ran to the porch just as Caleb galloped up, his horse lathered and wild-eyed. "Fire," he called, swinging down. "It's moving fast." Her chest tightened. "What do we do?" "I've got to cut the cattle loose so they can get to the creek," Caleb said, his voice urgent but steady. "But I need you to take Noah to the cellar and stay there until I come back." Maria shook her head. "You can't fight it alone." "I'll be faster without worrying about you both out there," he said firmly, gripping her shoulders. "Maria, trust me." She looked into his eyes, the same steady gray that had met her in the street months ago. "Come back to us," she whispered. "I will," he promised, brushing a quick kiss against her forehead before mounting up and thundering toward the smoke. The minutes dragged like hours. In the cellar, Maria clutched Noah to her chest, listening to the muffled roar of the fire and the pounding of her own heartbeat. At last, the sounds shifted. No more galloping hooves or crackling flames, only the patter of sudden rain against the earth. She climbed the stairs cautiously, Noah's small hand gripping her dress. Through the curtain of drizzle, she saw Caleb walking toward the house, soot streaking his face, his hat missing, but his eyes still locked on hers. She ran to him, Noah between them. Caleb wrapped them both in his arms, holding on as though the fire had burned away every doubt. "It's out," he said, his voice low with exhaustion. "The cattle are safe. The barn's still standing." Maria buried her face in his shirt, breathing in the scent of smoke and rain. "I thought I'd lose you," she whispered. "You won't," he said simply. "I meant it then, and I mean it now. I'm not afraid of loving you." The next morning the air smelled clean again. The fire had blackened the far hills, but the heart of the ranch still stood. Caleb took Maria's hand as they walked. The fence line, Noah toddling ahead. They stopped where the pasture opened into a wide view of the horizon. The sun was breaking through the clouds, casting gold over the wet grass. "This is our land now," Caleb said. "Yours, mine, and his." Maria felt the weight of the past finally lift from her shoulders. The fear of losing was still there, but it no longer ruled her. Together, they stood watching the land, a little family bound not by blood alone, but by choice, the choice to love despite the risk. And as the wind carried the scent of rain away, Maria knew the road that had once felt so long had finally led her home. The prairie wind swept through the quiet town, carrying the scent of rain. Maria stood outside the general store, cradling her baby beneath a worn shawl, her eyes scanning the dusty street for someone who wasn't coming. Her husband had been gone for months, off to war, they'd said, but deep down she knew the truth. He wasn't coming back. Alone and with her coins nearly gone, she had no plan but to keep moving. A shadow fell across her. She looked up to see a tall cowboy, his hat tipped low, eyes the color of storm clouds. He studied her face, then the bundle in her arms. "You look like you've been walking a long road," he said softly, voice edged with quiet concern. "It's been longer than I thought I could walk," she murmured, adjusting the shawl to shield her baby from the wind. He took a slow step closer. "You hungry? My ranch is just a mile out. Food's hot, roof doesn't leak." She hesitated, her grip tightening on the baby. "I don't even know your name, Caleb," he replied simply. "And you?" "Maria," she said, glancing down at the infant. "This is Noah." Caleb's gaze softened as Noah stirred. "Strong little fella," he said. "Got your eyes." She almost smiled, but didn't. "He's all I have." Caleb removed his hat, holding it to his chest. "Then let me help you keep what you have. Ain't charity. Just the right thing to do." He led her to his horse, lifting her into the saddle, Noah snug between them. The steady beat of hooves on the prairie road was the first rhythm in weeks that didn't feel like an ending dot at the ranch. The scent of hay and wood smoke wrapped around them. Caleb carried her suitcase inside, the hearth's glow softening the shadows of the room. The baby cooed, stretching toward the firelight. Maria loosened the shawl, letting warmth reach his small hands. Caleb poured her coffee, his voice low. "You don't owe me anything. I know what it's like to feel you've got nothing left but the weight on your shoulders." Over the next days, Caleb repaired fences, tended cattle, and made sure Maria and Noah had all they needed. He never asked for more than she could give. One night, a storm rattled the windows. Maria stood by the fire with Noah when Caleb came. Soaked from checking the barn. "You shouldn't be out in that," she said, worry in her voice. He shook off his hat. Couldn't risk the roof leaking over the feed. She draped a blanket over his shoulders without thinking. Caleb met her eyes, his voice steady. "Maria, I'm not afraid of loving you." The words stopped her breath. His arms came around her and Noah, holding them in a way that felt like shelter, not capture. "I've lost before," he murmured, "but some things are worth the risk." In the weeks that followed, Maria found herself moving through the ranch as though she belonged there. Noah's laughter filled the kitchen, and Caleb's smile grew easier. One evening, Caleb brought her wildflowers from the creek. "Not much. Grows this time of year," he said, "but they made me think of you." They ate supper by the fire, laughter softening the edges of the past. Later, under the stars, Caleb told her, "You're not alone anymore." Spring came. Caleb lifted Noah onto his shoulders, showing him the fields. One day the boy toddled toward Maria and called her Mama. She froze, then scooped him into her arms, tears in her eyes. That night, Caleb gave her a small silver ring. "It's not fancy, but it's strong, like what I want for us." She slipped it on, the firelight catching the metal. "Are you sure?" She whispered. "I've been sure since the day I saw you outside that store," he said. Then came the day the sky turned black. Smoke rose from the northern pasture. Caleb galloped to the house, urgency in every line of him. "Fire," he called. "I need to cut the cattle loose." "You take Noah to the cellar and stay there." She gripped his coat. "You can't do it alone." "Trust me," he said. "Come back to us," she whispered. "I will," he promised, before riding toward the flames. The cellar felt like a tomb as she waited. The roar of the fire was joined by the pounding of rain. Sudden, heavy at last, she climbed out and saw Caleb walking toward her, soot-streaked but alive. She ran to him, Noah between them, his arms closing around them both. "It's out," he said. "The cattle are safe." Maria pressed her face to his chest. "I thought I'd lose you." "You won't," he said simply. "I'm not afraid of loving you." The next morning, the prairie was washed clean. Hand in hand, they walked the fence line, Noah toddling ahead, the sun breaking through the clouds. "This is our land now," Caleb said. "Yours, mine, and his." And for the first time in years, Maria's heart felt light. The road that had once felt endless had finally led her home.